My name is Alistair Lee. In this video, I'm going to walk through Adobe Connect Meeting. Adobe Connect Meeting is the web conferencing technology from Adobe that allows for live virtual meetings, whether those are large webinars with a single presenter and hundreds of participants, smaller team meetings where everybody's able to collaborate and share information, or live training sessions where you've got an instructor, students, and perhaps breakout rooms. Adobe Connect Meeting is based on Adobe Flash, which means that participants don't need to download or install any software. They'll just come right into the meeting. It also means it works very well in low bandwidth environments. These meetings are also persistent, so I can go ahead and use the web interface to create a meeting once, give it a custom URL like my name, and I never have to schedule this meeting a second time. It's always available for me to use. Anything that I upload to the meeting room is also persistent. So if we go back to the meeting room, I can have PowerPoint documents in here, videos, any content I've ever used in my Adobe Connect meeting room is always going to be available for me to use in future sessions. The meeting room itself is made up of a number of pods, as you can see here. Each of these pods can be moved around and resized. As the host of the meeting room, I've got complete control over which pods are available, which pods are visible, and where they are on the layout. I can customize that and move these pods anywhere I'd like. I've also got some layouts, which are, you can see on the layout bar on the right-hand side of my screen, just arrangements that I've saved of pods. A default meeting comes with 3 separate layouts. I've got a sharing layout, we've got a discussion layout, and a collaboration layout. But I can easily create my own layout simply by clicking this plus button on the bottom of the layout bar. I can reposition these by dragging and dropping, or rename them simply by double-clicking a layout and typing in a new name. For now, though, I'm going to move back up to the sharing layout so that we can look at some of the different pods that are available. Starting here with the video pod that I've moved into the center of my screen. The video pod itself is used to share any type of live video, like the video coming from your webcam. Obviously, I can click the Start My Webcam button here to begin sharing my webcam video, or there's a webcam icon always available in the application bar at the top of the screen, and I can click on that. It will always begin by giving me a preview of what it's going to look like when I start sharing. If I'm happy with that preview, I can click the Start Sharing button, and that will launch the full webcam resolution. And Adobe Connect provides a resolution of up to 640 by 480 for the video pod, which is DVD quality. It looks great no matter how my video pod here is sized. And Adobe Connect will also intelligently scale multiple webcams. There's actually no limit to the number of people in your room who can share their webcam at the same time. Adobe Connect will automatically fit all of those different webcams into this video pod. If I'd like to enable the webcam for participants, I can go ahead and enable that for everybody in my meeting room. Or if I'd like to enable it just for a single participant, I can go ahead and use the hover menu built right into the attendee list to go and enable the video for a single participant. For now, though, I'm going to stop my webcam and just move it back into the top right-hand corner of my meeting room. By the way, you'll notice as I'm moving this back, there are some guides that appear to help me align my video pod with all of the other pods in my meeting room. Underneath the video pod, I've got the attendees pod. And this attendees pod lists all of my attendees. Now, by default, they're grouped based on the role that they're playing inside of my meeting. If I'd like to change the role of one of my attendees, I can hover over their name and make them into a host or a presenter. In this case, since I'm selecting a participant, I can actually also drag and drop one or more attendees from one role to another. So I've just promoted Conrad, in this case, from a participant to a presenter. As you can see, there are 3 roles inside of an Adobe Connect meeting. The first role is a participant. Participants can't control the meeting room itself. They can interact with content like polls or the chat pod, but they can't share information, they can't adjust the layout or the look and feel of the room. And by default, they're not able to use things like the webcam or their microphones, although as a host I can certainly give them those capabilities, as you've just seen. Presenters in a room have a little more power. They're actually able to share information. So they can share their screen, they can upload documents to the meeting room itself, they can navigate through things like PowerPoint documents, clicking to forward each slide. But they can't adjust the look and the feel of the room. Only a host of the room can do things like change layouts using the layout bar, create new layouts, add pods to the meeting layout itself. So those are the three different roles inside of the Adobe Connect meeting. They're all represented here. I do have two other views though in this attendees list. I've got a breakout room view, and I can use this to begin breakout rooms, which are smaller subsets of rooms that are going on during an Adobe Connect meeting. Ideal really for training use cases where you'd like to have the participants break out into smaller groups and collaborate. I can actually add multiple breakout rooms, up to 20 different breakout rooms now. And I can also have Adobe Connect automatically distribute everybody from my main meeting room into the different breakout rooms. Or again, if I'd like to make those decisions myself, I can drag and drop specific individuals to specific breakout rooms. When I'm ready to begin them, I click the Start Breakouts button here at the top. And finally, I've got a status view which will show me how my attendees have set their status. Every attendee, no matter what role they are inside of the Adobe Connect meeting, has got the ability to provide feedback back to the presenters and hosts, and they can do that with this status options dialog at the very top. I can do things like raise my hand, agree or disagree, step away, or provide feedback like asking the host to speak louder, softer, speed up, slow down, provide laughter or applause. Underneath the attendees pod, I've got a chat pod. This chat pod can be used to communicate with everybody else in the Adobe Connect meeting room. By default, the chat pod is unmoderated. It's completely open, which means anybody can use it and everybody sees that chat. We've also got the concept of private chat. Now this chat is between one or more individuals, and you'll notice private chat shows up in a separate tab. This tab is blinking to alert my attention. I can click on that and see the chat itself. You'll also notice that inside of the chat pod we can use different colors to indicate who's speaking at any given time or who's chatting at any given time. We've also got something called Q&A. If I go up to my pods menu and choose Q&A, we get a pod very similar to chat, but this is what we'd refer to as moderated chat. Because I'm a host, I can actually see two different views. I can see the presenter view, which is what we're looking at right now. I can also see a participant view. In this case, anytime one of the participants has a question, that question is seen only by the hosts and the presenters in the Adobe Connect room. If I move to the presenter view, I can see that a question's been asked. I can select that question, assign it, maybe to one of the other presenters or hosts in the room, or answer it myself, either privately back to the individual who asked the question, or publicly so that everybody can see the question and everybody can see the answer. In addition to chat and Q&A, I've also got the ability to add note pods to my meeting room. I'll go up here and select Notes and select a note pod that I've already used. You can see that, like any other content in an Adobe Connect meeting, these notes are persistent. So you can take them in one meeting, come back a few weeks later, and they'll still be there. These note pods do accept rich text formatting, so I can use things like bullet points, bold, italics, underline, change the colors, change the size of the font. And now I can also export these notes, either email them to myself as well as anybody else I'd like to add to that email list, or save them to my desktop as a rich text formatted file. I can have more than a single note pod available on my screen as well. I can go up to the Notes pod and maybe provide some audio information for users attending the meeting, take meeting notes, whatever the use case may be. For now though, I'm going to hide them so that we can take a look at the Share pod, which is the most powerful pod inside of an Adobe Connect meeting. The Share pod can be used to share a lot of different kinds of information. By default, as you can see here, if I click the Share My Screen button, I'm able to do desktop sharing, either my entire desktop, or I can select specific applications, or even specific windows on the operating system to share. If I cancel out of this though and click the arrow beside the Share My Screen dialog, I've got a couple of other options. I can also share a whiteboard to allow for collaboration inside of my meeting room. By the way, I can also apply those whiteboard annotations to other content like PowerPoint documents, even video. And finally, I've got the ability to share a document. I'm going to go ahead and select Share a Document. You'll notice by default it gives me the share history, so I can pull up anything that I've shared in the history of the meeting room very, very quickly. Or I can go and browse through my personal content library or the shared content section of the Adobe Connect server. I can also browse my computer for documents to upload to the Adobe Connect meeting room natively. And you'll notice that there are a number of different supported file types. I can upload image files like JPEG and PNG, Flash movies, PowerPoint documents, PDF files, video, either Flash video in FLV format or F4V format, or MP4 files, which are H.264 encoded videos, as well as MP3 audio. In addition to being able to select it from this dialog here, though, I can use my File Explorer to simply drag and drop any of those supported file types into my Connect room. And here it's going to upload that document for me, convert it to Flash if necessary, and show it to me in my SharePod. At any time, I can go to full screen view for any of these share settings. And you'll notice what I'm sharing right now is actually a Flex-based application. It's based on Flash, and so I'm able to not only view it inside of Adobe Connect, but I can actually interact with this application right inside of the Adobe Connect meeting room. And clicking on any one of these pies in the pie chart will affect the region details down below. So not only can I share static information, but I can actually upload custom applications to my Adobe Connect meeting room. In addition to the pods that we've already looked at, there are a number of other pods available from the Pods menu to help add additional functionality to your meeting. I've got some of them here in this other layout. So you can see we've got a poll pod to help gather feedback during a meeting, keeping those meetings more engaging. I've got a file share pod. I can use this pod to share files with all of the participants in my meeting. Everybody in the meeting will be able to click on one or more of the files that I've got in my file share pod and save a local copy to their computer. I've also got a web links pod on this page. Here I can use this to force everybody's browser to open to a specific web page. And I've got a pod with some video in. This is actually just a share pod, and it's got some an FLV file in this case uploaded to the share pod. And finally, I can use the meeting menu inside of the meeting to record the meeting itself or adjust the meeting preferences. You can see here I can do things like upload my own custom background, as I've done with this meeting, change the room bandwidth settings, or change the quality of the audio or video, or any of the other options applicable to any of the other pods inside of Adobe Connect. And that's a quick look at the Adobe Connect meeting module. Thanks for your time.